I've been married to Adrian long enough to know the difference between a tired husband and a distant one. Most wives would have missed it. Honestly, Adrian almost did too. When he walked through the front door that evening, he smiled, kissed my forehead, and said 3 words. "I'm just tired." That should have ended the conversation. Instead, it started one neither of us expected. People assume I notice the big things, the forgotten anniversary, the bad mood, the raised voice. Truth is, it's usually the little things. Adrian always hangs his keys on the hook beside the door. Always. That evening, they landed on the kitchen counter. It sounds ridiculous, I know. Except, my husband is a creature of habit. Habits don't disappear. They get interrupted, and I wanted to know what interrupted his. I didn't ask Adrian, not yet. That's one thing leading our marriage has taught me. The first answer isn't always the honest answer. Sometimes people answer with what feels safest, not with what's true. So instead, I waited. Dinner was quiet, not uncomfortable, just quieter than we usually are. Adrian laughed when I teased him about overcooking the pasta. But it came a heartbeat too late, like he'd heard me, then had to travel a long way back before he could answer. He asked about my afternoon. I started telling him about a client who'd completely changed her mind halfway through a project. Halfway through my sentence, his eyes drifted, not to his phone, not to the television, just somewhere inside his own thoughts. I stopped talking. He didn't even notice. That told me more than anything he could have said. Finally, I smiled. "So, where'd you go today?" He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you've been sitting across from me for 20 minutes. But I haven't seen you once." He smiled. "I'm right here." I smiled back. "No. You're home. But you haven't arrived yet." For a second, he looked almost relieved, like someone had finally said out loud what he'd been trying to outrun all evening. Adrian leaned back in his chair, then rubbed both hands across his face. You ever replay one conversation so many times that you're not even sure what actually happened anymore? I nodded. He didn't need to explain, but of course he did anyway. My manager questioned every decision I made today. Not yelling. Not angry. Worse. He just kept asking, "Are you sure? Did you think this through? Maybe someone else should handle it." I spent the drive home wondering if maybe he was right. I didn't answer immediately. Sometimes people don't need advice. They need room. So I let the silence stay exactly where it was. After a while, I asked one question. "When you walked through our front door, did you decide to protect me from your day?" Adrian looked surprised. "I guess I did." "And who decided I needed protecting?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again. There it was. Not work, not stress, not even self-doubt. It was loneliness disguised as strength. People hear the phrase wife-led marriage, and they imagine rules, schedules, power, control. Honestly, I understand why. That's the picture most people have. But ours has never been built around control. It's been built around responsibility. We made one agreement years ago. If either of us notices the other carrying something too heavy, we don't wait until it becomes resentment. We step toward each other, not away. I stood up, walked around the table, and instead of sitting across from him, I sat beside him, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. "I don't need you to solve today before you let me into it." He stared at the table. I didn't want work following me home. I smiled. It didn't. He looked a bit confused. "You brought yourself home. There's a difference." His shoulders dropped almost instantly. Then I noticed something. His coffee mug was still sitting exactly where he'd set it down 20 minutes earlier. Untouched. Adrian always finishes his coffee. Always. I slid the mug a little closer to him. He looked at it, then at me. Without thinking, he reached for it. Took one slow sip. Sometimes, the smallest action is enough to tell someone's nervous system, it's okay. Before I stood up, I gently touched the back of his hand. Next time, if the day starts winning, don't wait until dinner to let me know. It wasn't a reprimand. It wasn't even a rule. Just a quiet reminder. The kind that's easy to receive because it's wrapped in care. He nodded. I can do that. No, I smiled. We can do that. That tiny correction changed something. Not because I'd told him what to do, because I'd reminded him he didn't have to do it alone. Then he whispered, "Thank you for seeing me before I could explain myself." People sometimes ask me what leading a marriage actually looks like. Most days, it looks exactly like this. Not having all the answers. Just paying close enough attention to notice when the person you love has started disappearing behind the weight they're carrying. That night, Adrian hung his keys back on the hook before we went upstairs. He probably thought I hadn't noticed. I did. Because sometimes, the smallest habits tell you someone has found their way home again.